As a huge Sonic fan, I figured it's about time that I discussed what things I want to see from Shadow with how good Shadow Generations apparently is. I mean, IGN gave it a 9 out of 10 with 8.5 out of 10 for the original Sonic Generations. So I thought up of a basic storyline and how a new Shadow the Hedgehog game could go, so stay with me here if you want to see my thoughts. But before I get into it, please hit the like button if you're a huge fan of Sonic. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell. I appreciate everyone who reaches out. Let's get into some ideas for what I want to see from a proper Shadow the Hedgehog game and not just an expansion like Episode Shadow and Sonic Forces and Shadow Generations. Now, I never played the original Shadow the Hedgehog or Shadow Generations on the GameCube or Switch 2, so I'm on the wiki. I'm just going to be reading. It says that levels and bosses can be drawn from other different Sonic games as well, which is a fun nod. And I'd already known of Shadow's Chaos Control ahead of time, so there's that, I guess. Also, Shadow gets these weird, dark, gooey wings for whatever reason. I'm still confused about that. Like, what? But if Sakurai does add Shadow to Smash without all these crazy attacks, I'd honestly be kind of upset. But the story boils down to one of Shadow's creators, Black Doom, having survived the arc that happened on Shadow the Hedgehog on GameCube, and the whole time anomaly that happens with Time Eater and Sonic Generations. Shadow and Black Doom get roped into that somewhat and end up in a place called White Space. So while Black Doom is building up his powers to become Devil Doom and Neo Devil Doom, Shadow encounters Maria and Gerald Robotnik, hoping that he can avert their fates of death. As it turns out, that when Shadow and Sonic had actually faced each other in the time anomaly, Sonic took the fake Chaos Emerald that Tails had created back in Sonic Adventure 2. And this isn't actually that unfamiliar to me, considering that I've recently been watching Sonic X on Disney Plus lately. And I like how Shadow's story plays out along the lines of Sonic Generations, where Sonic and Classic Sonic have to fight Time Eater. And what makes the game even better is that it was released in the same movie as Sonic the Hedgehog Movie 3, that's live action, that includes Shadow. Besides Sonic, Shadow is my favorite Sonic character in the franchise. So I think, yeah, I've made my point based off of all this plot that I've been reading from the wiki. And what's crazy is that Shadow, I don't think, has ever appeared in a 2D Sonic game, only in the 3D Sonic games. Usually he's just a side character in the 3D games at that, outside of his Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow Generations, and Sonic Forces with Episode Shadow. And when you get to play as Shadow in a 3D Sonic game, it's because he has his own story. And Sonic Forces has Shadow having his own story of what happened to Infinite before he acquired the Phantom Ruby from Eggman. And let's talk about Sonic Forces for a brief moment so I can give you context of what I want a new Shadow game to be. Now, as someone who never played the original Wii version of Sonic Colors, playing Sonic Forces kind of gave me a brief idea of what it was like. Sonic Forces in a lot of ways seems to take after Sonic Colors. The level design, sure, it's a little bit safe, but the level design seems to take after Sonic Colors in a couple of different ways. You can utilize the wisps with your OC, and the bosses aren't really that hard until the very end, and even the final boss isn't that hard. Now, Sonic Forces does have extra and secret levels in the game, unlike Sonic Colors, so at least that's a slight step up. So Sonic Forces isn't the beefiest game ever with lame customization, but overall it's still an enjoyable Sonic game to play. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that Classic Sonic is also in that game, which you already knew. But of course, Shadow had his own mini-adventure when fighting off Infinite, so there's that, I guess. Of course, the point of me saying this is because I want to see I want to see the concept with Infinite explored again, just with better execution. Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors are amazing, but what happened with Sonic on Wii U and 3DS is just kind of eh. And since Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations are such standout good Sonic games, and they got remakes on today's generation of consoles, that makes them even better, even if the customization aspect of Sonic Colors Ultimate is quite lame and only a novel thing. But I think what a good Sonic game is something that has good level design about 90% of the way through. The level design is nice multi-layered so that you can have some fun just exploring it, and the red rings are put in spots that aren't too hard to reach. The levels should also be nicely condensed and should only take like 3 to 5 minutes to complete. The campaign should be 4 to 5 hours at longest, so yeah, that's pretty much my preference of what a good Sonic game would be, at least for mainline, because that's kind of, at least for a mainline Sonic game, because that's kind of how Sonic Colors is. It's a nice 5-hour campaign where red rings and levels are nicely condensed. You'll have some fun blasting through it. Something like that built for Shadow would probably benefit him compared to what happened on Shadow the Hedgehog on the GameCube, because holy moly. It just feels like it's rated very T for teen because of the guns, Shadow cursing with the D word, and the multiple endings and poor controls compared to Sonic Heroes is just wow. But like I said before, I want to see the concept with Infinite and the Phantom Ruby explored again, just with better execution compared to what happened in Sonic Forces. Just take all the good aspects from Shadow Generations, Sonic Forces, Sonic Colors, pump it all on steroids, make Shadow the main character that you play as the entire time. You got yourself a winning game, Sega. But what would the game be about? What would the story be? Well, I'm so glad none of you asked, because I've had a story in my mind for quite a long time. I'm thinking that just opens up with Shadow racing across Eggman's base, and that's the first zone, and it has like 6 or 7 acts, again, like Sonic Colors. And Shadow is just trying to get the Chaos Emerald that Eggman has. Now he has a Chaos Emerald of his own so that he can do Chaos Control. I mean, like, duh, of course. But the reason Shadow has broken into Eggman's laboratory to get the Chaos Emerald is because he may have found a way to bring Maria back, and Rouge and Knuckles are with him because it involves the Master Emerald. But Rouge and Knuckles keep trying to remind him of what the risks could be. But after Shadow fights and defeats Eggman for the Chaos Emerald, something weird happens that involves virtual reality from the Phantom Ruby to kick in. And then Shadow and Eggman, for a brief moment, see an image of Infinite, like he's been trapped in virtual reality since Sonic and Euro C has defeated Infinite. And the second zone could be at Angel Island, but something has happened because Infinite has been trapped in virtual reality, and he does something at Angel Island, so that could be the next zone with a couple more acts. And once he reaches the Master Emerald Shrine, he has to fight Infinite in virtual reality. And just when he thinks he's defeated Infinite, he uses the Chaos Emeralds and Master Emerald together. He somehow brings Maria back to life, but then Infinite gets more powers from it somehow. And he traps Sonic in virtual reality in turn for Infinite's freedom from virtual reality. A story like that has the intensity of the powers of the Phantom Ruby combined with Shadow finding a possible way to bring back Maria, that'd be a pretty good character story arc in my opinion. Maybe something happens to Maria in the process of bringing her back to life and she gets the same chaos power that Shadow has. Like, dude, I just thought of that, and that would be like amazing. And that'd just be the beginning of the story. I do have a pretty good idea of how the end could turn out, but that's just for me to ponder on. Let me know what you thought of this sort of story, and if a full-fledged Shadow game would actually work, if it took a similar structure from Sonic Colors and the story took the arc from Sonic Forces. I personally think that would be amazing. Comment down below why you may think I'm right, why you may think I'm wrong, why you think a fully fledged Shadow game would be a bad idea. whatever your thoughts are. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed watching. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell. I appreciate everyone who reaches out. I'll see you all next time. Shout out for Smash Bros. Sakurai.